Mhm. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Schultz, Facilities Planner for Boulder County Public Works. Thank you so much for being online tonight. We're hoping for a fun and productive meeting. All guests are muted, so if you have any comments, please write them in the chat. I'll disappear in a minute to follow along the chat with our consultant, Ashley. But now I have the pleasure of introducing Commissioner Marta Loachman and Parks and Open Space Director Therese Glowacki, who will give introductions before we start. Marta, take it away.
Thank you. Buenas tardes, buenas noches, good evening. Bienvenidos a todas las personas participando hoy. Para aquellos que quieren escuchar y participar en español, tenemos intérpretes que se unirán hoy. Simplemente haga clic en el icono del mundo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Welcome, and a reminder that everyone does need to choose their language of preference on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. We're so glad that you're here with us this evening. Welcome and bienvenidos. I'm Boulder County Commissioner Marta Loachman. Thank you especially to all the county staff and community partners who helped us get online for this public process this evening, but really for all of you who have helped us get to this part of the public process. I do want to just give a quick exciting announcement that the Boulder County Fair will be happening in 2022. So save the dates for August 11th through 14th. And we also want to make sure that residents throughout Boulder County have an opportunity to give input in this process for all events that can be hosted at this site. The Fairgrounds Master Plan will guide the evolution of the facility into a far-reaching community events complex by identifying, looking for, listening for meaningful ways to continue to serve the community by exploring future upgrades to the facilities, which is why we're here this evening, maintaining a focus on the rural heritage and agricultural focus of Boulder County. Boulder County and its contractor design workshop has been leading the master planning process and have already conducted interviews with staff and facility users, hosted some focus groups recently in person, held an open house, and conducted a survey to get to the three options that will be presented tonight, one of which will be selected to help guide the direction of the final master plan. And so as part of a member of the executive advisory board for the Boulder County Fairgrounds master plan, I am really honored to be here with you all this evening to kick off this event. And with that, I would like to introduce Therese Glowacki, our director of the Boulder County Parks and Open Space Department. And she will tell us more about the Boulder County Fairgrounds and the project team. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Commissioner Loachman. And good evening, everyone. I'm Therese Glowacki, Director of Boulder County Parks and Open Space. The Fairgrounds is a part of our department. The Boulder County Fairgrounds was built in its current location in 1977. The site was officially dedicated on August 16, 1978, during the inaugural county fair at the site. Before then, the Boulder County Fair was held at Roosevelt Park here in Longmont. The first buildings consisted of only an indoor and an outdoor arena, grandstands, livestock barns, and a rustic camping area for the fair exhibitors. The exhibit building was under construction, but not quite finished at that time. The fairgrounds have been an asset to the entire community ever since. We have 1,500 events and 400,000 visitors annually. That's a lot of events and a lot of visitors. And that's in addition to the thousands of people who attend the fair, which Commissioner Loachman just announced is going to happen this year after a 2-year hiatus with COVID. So to continue providing the best in public service, the county is developing a new fairgrounds master plan that meets the current and future needs of the community while continuing to attract new users. The fairgrounds master plan will be the roadmap for how we can redevelop the site. The overarching goal of this plan is to continue the legacy of the fairgrounds as a cherished amenity for everyone in Boulder County. As I mentioned, Parks and Open Space Department manages the Boulder County Fairgrounds, but the update of the master plan is being led by Boulder County Public Works Department. I'm happy to introduce the staff on the call today who've been working on this project from our Public Works Department. And you've already met one of them, Carla Schultz. And then we also have James Butler and Andrew Barth. Boulder County Parks and Open Space team that is on this call include Joe LaFollette, who's the Fairgrounds manager, Rebecca Harp, who's the Fairgrounds scheduling coordinator. So if any of you on this call have used the Fairgrounds, you've probably talked to Rebecca. Vivian Janapur, who is our Parks and Open Space Public Information Manager. And then we have tonight 2 Spanish interpreters, Rosabelle and Jennifer, and they can be heard on the Spanish channel. And then finally, the design workshop team who will be leading our presentation and discussion today. So Design Workshop has extensive experience in fairgrounds design and management, as well as regional and national experience designing fairgrounds master plans, which is why we selected them. They will be facilitating the discussion tonight. Rob Berg is the president, and Ashley Hedgemanek is the designer and project manager. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley and Rob to take the rest of the night. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate that intro. Again, my name is Rob Berg. I am the president of Design Workshop, joined here by a super talented team. Ashley Hedgemanek is our project manager, along with the very talented Leah Stoltz, who is our project landscape architect. And we are joined with our team by Chip Overton of KO Architects, who has extensive work in both the design and implementation of fairgrounds facilities all over the country. And joining our team also is Susie Siegler and her team at Crossroads, and they provide the market analysis information that really goes into helping us determine, the viability of a lot of the things that we show today. So let's look at the meeting agenda. So tonight we're going to simply recap what public outreach we've done to date. We're going to go through program attributes, which were supported by that market study that I just talked about, and by user input, so through surveys and focus groups. We're going to look at 3 different concepts that were generated based on that market study and the user input. And we're going to get your feedback on those. So we're going to get some real-time feedback in the meeting tonight, but then there's also an opportunity to take more time with those, as mentioned before, look at them on the website and provide additional feedback as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about the next steps. So just to review where we are in the project timeline, this project actually started nearly 2 years ago and then went on hold. We restarted the project the fall of this year. We held focus groups and other discussions in September, and the first public outreach efforts were in November and December. So we took all of that information, and that led us to the concept alternatives, which we're going to show tonight. And then after tonight, we'll be moving towards developing a preferred alternative. So we'll take all of your comments and compile them into a preferred alternative, which we hope to present in June. Okay. So again, the purpose, we had a great refresher as to the history of the fairgrounds, but as it stands today, the fairgrounds consists of roughly 80 acres, 15 buildings and structures on the site, on the property today. Most of them, again, as we heard, were constructed, 40 years ago or so. And so a master plan is definitely called for, and an analysis of those structures has been done as well. The fairgrounds really has evolved from supporting the fair and local agriculture to now serving year-round events and becoming a community asset that holds multiple events. We heard so many different events throughout the year.
I'm going to jump in and just talk a little bit about what we've heard in our last public engagement opportunities. Again, we had an in-person meeting in December, And then it was followed by an online survey. In total, we had 275 people participate in that first round of input. We asked questions like, what do you use the most? What are the strengths of the fairgrounds? And we learned that respondents use the exhibit building a lot and came to the site quite often for the farmers market. So those are very popular responses. And we had a lot of Longmont neighbors who participated in the opportunity there. We also asked what improvements people would like to see in the facilities in the future and throughout the grounds, and heard things like interior and event space for nicer events, improved technology and more meeting rooms, as well as more restrooms and shade structures throughout the grounds, more natural space and areas for recreation. These are just some of the bigger points that we heard in the process, but what would improve the master plan and its site and facilities in the future. But those are really reiterated in the market study that I'll go into next. So this is just a short snapshot of what that was. So some of the site strengths and opportunities, we've heard a little bit about this, but there's a solid base of long-term historic users that use the site. It's a unique asset to the community, given the amount and types of spaces that are offered for rental and for groups. It's affordable to a lot of user groups, has pretty good access to get there in a good location. There's opportunities though to update facilities where we're starting to see some limited or poor conditions. The opportunity to retain, grow, and attract new events exists. There's an opportunity to leverage the strength of the local and state agricultural industry here and really promote that. And there's an opportunity to enhance the overall functionality of the fairgrounds. So given a growing population, accommodating diverse needs. So we've assessed the conditions of the site and the individual buildings to get an understanding of where extra attention might be needed. On this map, red is pretty poor conditions. Yellow is acceptable, but definitely starting to show its age, and green is good. So this starts to give us an impression of where opportunities exist in the future. We also looked at site challenges that are imposed on the site, such as, again, the physical condition of some of the spaces, lack of availability. It's very popular, and so it makes it hard to fit in new events. There's a lot of competition from multiple facilities in the state. A lot of those facilities are similarly going through this kind of process and improving their assets. There's some price sensitivity to be aware of with some of the user groups that are existing. And it's land locked. We're not able to expand the actual site, so we have to work within the confines of the area that's provided. There's a little bit of a lack of modern event space or a moderate sized exhibit and meeting space. The indoor arena floor is a little bit small. Parking is limited for larger events. And some people find it very challenging to kind of find their way around the site. So I'll have Chip jump in here and kind of go over some of the program recommendations.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. So after taking a look at the site and listening to user input, we really wanted to create a program that made sense or kind of fit what works or what should work on the Boulder County Fairgrounds. What we didn't want to lose was what is already being done at the fairgrounds. We wanted to make sure we still were able to hold the annual fair, but we also wanted to make sure we could still host the events that are hosted there now. But at the same time, we really wanted to take a look at the market and try to determine what we could do to expand the opportunities, not only to generate revenue, but even bring more people to the community. So the program recommendations that were listed here are not necessarily specific to the facilities on site. They're really more goals, if you will, on either it can either be an expansion of an existing facility or a renovation of an existing facility, or it might very well be a brand new building on site as well. So there are different ways to accomplish these goals, but the first thing and foremost is really just to try to improve circulation and wayfinding on the site. How do you enter the site? Is there a way to come in find an entry point or some sort of pathway that makes sense as you move through. And then to accomplish that, there's probably some relocation of the livestock barns, but ultimately we want to make sure that there is about 137,000 square feet of livestock facilities when we're completed with this project. Right now, I think there are about 105,000 square feet of barn space. So we're looking at expanding that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the horse facilities here on the next slide. But the development of a concrete flat column-free floor space that could be used for the expansion of the exhibit building. That building ultimately is probably going to be about 30,000 square feet. That will include 25,000 square feet of usable exhibit space plus ancillary additional support spaces. And then we also want to expand the existing indoor arena. So whether that's in addition to the indoor arena, or as I said, maybe a new facility, but that building would ultimately then be about 80,000 square feet. On the next slide here, we're talking about expanding the RV parking, and we also want to enhance that RV parking. So we want to add about 30% more spaces. Right now, there are about 96 spots in that RV park, so we're going to be adding about 30 additional spaces, or 29 if you're doing the actual math. But those spaces need to be 50 amp capable spaces. We want to make sure there's water and sewer capabilities for those spaces as well. So really just enhance what's in there, as well as possibly enhancing and making better the shower facility that's there. We want to increase the horse stalls. That's part of that barn square footage, but we want to increase those horse stalls by 25%. There are around 170-ish horse stalls now, so we're going to up that number by a little over 40. The administrative office spaces on site. So there's a house that houses the fairgrounds offices. There's the Clover building that has some offices and some 4-H spaces in it, as well as then the DNR, Natural Resources building. All that in total adds up to right around 20,000 square feet or so. We're going to expand that a little bit, add some additional spaces for use for office space, but that new all in total office space that we want to put back on the fairgrounds will be 25,000 square feet. Whether it's one building or multiple buildings, we haven't decided yet, but that's all part of this process. And then looking at other additional spaces throughout the fairgrounds, as I mentioned before, entry gates, storage spaces, maintenance, additional restroom buildings, enhancing infrastructure such as lighting and Wi-Fi and landscaping and things like that. So that's really what we want to try to accomplish with this master plan. And you'll see that as we look forward and move forward through the concepts.
One of the ways we would like to collect information today is through a program called Mentimeter. And coming up next, I'm going to ask the question on how are we doing with thinking about the opportunities and strengths? Did we miss any opportunities? So that question will be coming up. I recommend, if you are on a computer, to use your smartphone to log in and kind of have two devices running at once. So if possible, use your cell phone for providing information. Follow the instructions that'll be at the top of the next screen. Try to keep your computer screen to Zoom if you're using that. If you only have one screen in front of you, use your computer to vote. Keep it on Zoom unless you're actually actively giving feedback, and it'll show in live time the feedback that's being entered by everyone. So let's give this a shot. I'll move to the next screen. So you can go to www.menti.com and enter the code that's shown at the top of the screen. And that question will appear. Are there any opportunities and challenges that you would like to know or add? I'll just give everyone a moment to log in. I do have a request to maximize my screen. I don't know how small it is for you. I'll try. But I was having trouble advancing when it was in the maximize format. So I will try this again. But I think we might be limited. There we go. Hopefully that's a little better. So we'll see if some feedback comes in here in a minute. I'm going to do a test on mine as well, just to make sure this is all working. There we go. Any and all ideas are welcome, just to, again, what opportunities and challenges may we have missed, or would you want to make sure that we are taking into account? And we'll give this just another minute or so and move on with the presentation and get into the concepts. Here we go. So you can see what everyone is entering. And my fellow panelists are welcome to kind of connect in and provide any comment. And I'll give it another minute or two, but this is not your only opportunity to comment on items like this. So a little bit of discussion on the Humane Society, which we really haven't gotten into with this plan, but I think we have considered from the standpoint of connecting into the space with trails and so forth. Better wayfinding, we've heard a lot of trails, sustainability, picnic shelters and shade, trees, green space. We are going to ask a question later on how we should be thinking about the green space here. All right. Well, I'm glad this is working. I think we'll move forward, get your results in. And again, there'll be more opportunities to enter your thoughts. Okay, so back to Chip on some of the concepts or some of the imagery that.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. So as we look at those program recommendations, we are starting to look at possibly creating new facilities or enhancing the existing facilities on the grounds. So I'm talking more vertical infrastructure. Obviously, there's quite a bit of horizontal infrastructure, utilities, underground, sewer and electric and things like that we need to enhance. But the vertical facilities infrastructure is really what people come in contact with first. And we want those facilities to be as multi-purpose as possible, something that might not only be used for an animal show or a livestock show one weekend, but maybe it could be used for a open air market or maybe a trade show the next weekend. So this is an example of a barn that can be closed down. So this is its closed down mode. If you sequence through the slides, you can see the panel start to open up. So it becomes basically an open air livestock facility, at completion. So in that kind of final form, that would allow for basically open ventilation livestock facilities, just like you have now for the most part. But if you can imagine, this building also has a concrete floor. It can be hosed down, it can be wiped down. The stalling panels can be removed, and then it can be used for some other sort of purpose. Next slide. Oh yeah, there you go. So here's what a facility like this may start to look like. This is very similar to what you have for your indoor arena. You can see the animal show going on inside this arena. But if you take this animal show, you take the animal pins and you remove them, you will have something not unlike the next slide that actually is you'll see the animal pins, but yet the concrete floor is polished clean. You still have the bleachers, so maybe you could have a high school graduation inside of this building. You could have some sort of indoor sporting event or maybe a concert or something like that. And if you go to the next slide, you can actually see it set up kind of as a trade show kind of floor or maybe a classroom type setting. So multi-purpose, multi-use. So not only just a livestock facility or livestock barns, but maybe there's a way we can try to get some additional revenue out of these types of facilities. So as you go through the facilities, this is probably very similar to what we have now. So how can we enhance these or modify these livestock facilities? You can see the pins are removable. This is a dirt floor. Dirt floors may not necessarily be as accessible, but they probably are friendlier to livestock specific only facilities. This next slide actually shows something that could be a pavilion. So you can see the glass garage doors on the side. Those glass garage doors can be opened up, and it could serve as a market. It could be a facility where you would have some sort of business after hours, or maybe a company picnic. Restrooms would be attached to this facility. There would be a catering kitchen, possibly other types of meeting rooms or storage rooms also. So very multi-purpose type of shelter-ish type facility that could either be located in the park or maybe even on the fairgrounds proper. And then just a couple of other follow-up slides that show arenas. This is just kind of an indoor arena concept, maybe bringing light in just to kind of show maybe something that could happen with your indoor arena. Or the next slide is really a concrete floor facility with a dirt arena brought into it. On the left, you can see the bleachers extended, and then on the right, you can see the bleachers collapsed. So the building could be very, very flexible in that regard.
Okay, thanks, Chip. Those are some awesome ideas. I think let's keep those in mind as we now transition and start to look at the 3 different concept alternatives that we've generated. Keep in mind, as Ashley pointed out, we're going to ask you some questions for each one of these concepts. So maybe keep in mind what you like or maybe what you dislike about each one of these, because after we show this, talk about it a little bit, then we'll go to that survey function and you'll get a chance to type in what you like or what you dislike about each concept. And we're going to show you 3 different alternatives. So let's dive in with the first one here. So this first concept is really building on the existing layout. It's maintaining most of the structures that are there today. It rebuilds and reconstructs a number of those, and we'll go into detail on that. But it's assuming a number of things. So the plan itself remains centered on this pedestrian street, this east-west, or sorry, north-south pedestrian street in the middle there, which is similar to what happens today. And that's really where the pedestrians are focused during main event times. The main point of access is relatively close to where it exists today off of Nelson Road. There's those 2 points of access. And then we maintain the access off of Boston Ave to the north as well. A new addition to the exhibit building faces Hover Street. And so this is that addition that Chip was talking about, that plus or minus 30,000 square feet. The intent with this, though, is that it would have maybe a more significant architectural presence on Hover Street. So really call attention to the fairgrounds and be a bit of an icon, if you will, along Hover Street. Barn A and the indoor arena stay where they are, but they get renovated and expanded. So their footprint grows a little bit to meet those requirements that Chip was talking about in terms of overall size. The barns as they exist today are demolished and rebuilt to accommodate kind of that larger size that Chip was discussing. The outdoor arena and grandstand is renovated but kept in its current location. The existing natural resource CSU extension building and the Clover building remain in place. You'll see a couple different alternatives of that in the other concepts. So, but in this concept, we left it alone. And then just for a counterpoint, we located the farmers market closer to Nelson Road here, where it's a little more visible. We've had some great conversations with the planning department from the city of Longmont, and there are some future residential projects that are being planned to the south side of Nelson Road, bringing a whole bunch of new residents in that area. And we thought that by relocating the farmers market in that area, that might have some nice synergy with those new residents down there. So that's that. And then I guess the final element here to point out is the expanded RV spaces. So we're reconfiguring the RV lot on the far western side of the site near the maintenance sheds. But also we have some new expanded RV lot near the cattail pond you'll see there. And ideally, that would be more of a soft surface, so we wouldn't have to have so much paving, but it's in concept at this moment. So that's concept one.
I'm going to move to the Menti question. I don't know if Chip has anything to add here as well. The image is going to disappear from your screen, so I just want to leave it up for just a second. Chip, would you add anything?
No, I mean, I think, as Rob said, that the main emphasis here is really that Main Street effect, and with all the buildings fronting it. Jack Murphy Arena stays in place. I think that's a very important piece. And then the new farmers market is, I think, real exciting as well. So,
okay, let's return to Menti. So what do you like or alternatively dislike about that concept? What seems to be working? What's not? I do see some comments are being entered into the chat, so we can try to address these two as we go. Would this essentially be a full street connection from Boston to Nelson? It would have the opportunity to be closed off like it is today for events, but it could also facilitate the movement, especially before and after event times when there's large vehicles dropping off livestock and so forth. The main pedestrian way would act as a street. It is drivable, and that connection could be made. What about traffic entering off of Hover? We haven't done a full traffic study on this yet. We do have a partner on our project team that is a transportation expert that will be reviewing concepts. Conceptually, we would like to look at making a connection to Hover, but we haven't studied that in depth yet.
We do have some ideas from the our calls with the planning department that there may be a connection on Hover in the future, and if so, then we'd like to line up with that. So that may be coming.
And there's such great feedback in going into the chat. I'm not going to go through it all, but know that we're collecting this, and we will definitely be using it as we come up with preferred alternatives, so it really resonates with you all.
Do we want to go to the next concept?
Yes, so I'm going to move ahead. And again, thank you for all this feedback. Same thing after this next concept, you will have an opportunity to enter what you like or dislike about it.
Okay. So, so in concept 2, this is a slightly more modernized approach with new modern facility footprints. It's also organized on this central kind of Main Street axis, as Chip was talking to, drawing people through the site from Nelson Road on the south to the open space across both Boston Ave to the north. With this one, we are assuming a new addition to the exhibit building that aligns with the main site axis. So just to the south is where that expansion would be. We would likely pave those parking lots like everybody has been asking for years, I think. The barns are demolished and combined into larger footprints. So you'll see new barn on either side of the new indoor arena. And so that could be a more efficient layout of those. A new indoor arena is centered between the barns. The arena and grandstand remains in the same location, but they're rebuilt as an indoor facility. So a covered grandstands, covered arena area there. In this concept, we've co-located all of the administrative and office uses into the natural, including the natural resources, CSU extension, and all the functions that are in the Clover building they're all co-located in a new structure, or they're, and you can see kind of that location there. And then again, the farmers market is relocated in this concept to Nelson Road. You'll see a different option in the next plan. You can also see a different configuration of the RV lot expansion. Yeah, on that corner there. We have a community garden placed near the cattail pond as well. So Chip, any other follow-up on this one?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, one thing that we start to run into is that wayfinding throughout the fairgrounds is really difficult right now. So as you move through the barns, you get to the indoor arena and you go to barns, you know, C, D, and E, and as they kind of trail off to and move further east, people just don't find their way back into those barns. So what these new barns are doing are actually combining the function of those barns, making a more efficient flat floor facility, actually providing for the ability to drive through and unload animals. So animals are not unloaded outside the barns. You know, it's more of a contemporary approach to how livestock facilities are ran at other fairs that are very similar. And of course, These barns would then be something that's a little larger, more maybe usable for other types of events. The the farmers market really being on a separate side of the fairgrounds from the Jack Murphy Arena, or what is now the indoor arena and grandstand that is a covered structure, but it is purposeful, meaning that you could have an event going on at the farmers market as well as you could have an event going on at that new indoor arena. And they could have different parking areas, and you wouldn't be fighting for the same parking spaces. So all of that is done for a reason. And just in general, just making sure that, I think it's important to realize not all this is going to happen on day one. All of these facilities, it's going to be phased over time. So this is really just kind of a big picture plan. Maybe what's this place going to look like 10 years, 20 years from now. So just keep in mind, we're not going to bulldoze the entire grounds on day one and put all these buildings up that by the next summer or anything like that. So it's going to be a gradual approach, but we're just trying to look at different opportunities and different options that may present themselves.
Yeah,
Can I
Chip,
see- Go
you
ahead.
brought up a good point about circulation, and I think this plan does a nice job of creating a loop road around the facilities, which is critical for logistics of load in and load out as well. So,
And I was going to add, Aaron asked in the chat about parking for the farmers market. As Chip said, in all of the options, we really tried to separate the farmers market from the Jack Murphy Arena to divide up those uses and the parking associated with them. On this one, there's the opportunity to use perhaps half the lot for farmers market. It could spill into green space that's adjacent to what we're showing more as a plaza space. It can also really spill easily across into the park space too. So there's plenty of ample room to set up for the farmers market. There's a little bit of parking provided if half of it were to be used for that. And then understanding that a lot of these ancillary spaces around here are able to be parked as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to the Menti and give you all the opportunity to once more tell us what you like or dislike about that option. And they're starting to come in here, so we'll just leave this up for another minute or so. I know it takes a little time to type it all in. There is a lot of comments about parking in general. So know that as we get into the next level of detail and study, that's going to be a big consideration on how many spaces are being provided, how close in proximity they are to where everyone will be heading. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to option 3 here.
okay. So in option 3, we wanted to look at what if we just kept the assets that were in their highest and best use today and rethink the layout of the other assets. So it's the most long-term vision concept. It reimagines really the entire site. And ideally, it's building in flexibility of the use in the future and aligning that site access point with future adjacent developments. So like we said, there's likely going to be a new signalized intersection at Nelson Road near the Humane Society. And then if and when an access onto Hover Street occurs, this could be an access point there as well. So in this one, a new addition to the exhibit building aligns with the same main access, which is now angled, as you can see. The barns are all combined into a larger footprint. So you basically do all of that under one roof there, all the barns and stalling. A new indoor arena is centered between the barns. The outdoor arena and grandstand moves closer to Nelson Road, and it's rebuilt as an indoor facility. This also kind of that orientation takes advantage of what was the RV park area, and it just conceptualizes a different use for that area. All of the administrative and office uses, including the natural resource, the extension, and the Clover building, are co-located into a new structure. The farmers market is rebuilt generally in the location it is today. The RV lot has been relocated closer to Boston Ave, as you can see there. And Chip, any other additional comments to make on this one?
Sure, Rob. Yeah, fasten your seatbelts, right? Because this is a pretty crazy concept. And so, you know, as we mentioned before, you know, this is a 20-year plan, multi-year plan. This, you know, not all of this would happen on day one, but keep in mind there's a few key concepts that continue to happen, or things that you see to happening. So the farmers market is separated as far away from it as far away from the grandstand or the Jack Murphy Arena as possible, you know, to once again allow for multiple events to happen at the same time. The you know, as far as entry and exit through the site, you know, we feel this really does start to maximize the ability to navigate through the site and kind of pull people through it at a slight angle, of course. And then really taking advantage of that central core, we really see that as a space that can become active on the weekends. You know, that kind of pink, kind of red area in the center. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of positives here. You know, things that kind of work together, but at the same time kind of grow or build on what we saw in the other concepts also.
Okay, let's see what you like or dislike about this radical one. While everyone's entering into this, no, and we'll provide a web address at the end of the presentation. That these concepts have been put up on the project website. There is a similar online survey that asks questions like this, so you can go into that and answer again and provide more feedback, or if you think of something you didn't enter tonight, you can take the survey and enter there. You can pass it on to your friends and neighbors to enter as well. So all of this is available online. I will be interested what you all say when we ask which one do you most prefer at this time, because I'm seeing very 50-50 results on all of these, which is great. We don't expect any of these to be the right fit just yet. In the chat, what is the thought regarding the park area with the pavilion reorganization and changing the feeling of that in the future? We haven't delved too much into the park and open space design of this yet. That is going to be a question that's coming up, is how would you like to see these open spaces used on the site? And we will be designing in more detail to that. So just another minute here and we'll move on. And I think we've collected most of it, so I'm going to go ahead and advance. So that the next question is, of all these concepts, knowing that none of them are the perfect fit at this point in time, which one is resonating with you most at this point in time? I'm going to direct a question to Chip. Do any of these concepts offer an outdoor riding arena for the public like they have now off of Nelson?
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the best way to answer that is we probably haven't quite got to that detail yet. So the short answer is yes, all of them would ultimately offer all of the riding arenas that are there now. They're probably just not shown properly on these diagrams yet.
Not in enough detail yet. Okay, it looks like we have about 43 people participating. We have maybe 17 that have answered the question on Menti, on which is the preferred concept right now. And concept 2, which is kind of in the middle of the road, is leading the way. So if you're on Menti, please enter. And if you are not able to do those both simultaneously, again, it'll be on the online survey that you can participate in later. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Just a few more here. What are your suggestions for using the open spaces on the site? There is the park area. There's potential for weekday use of what's going on along with the farmers market location, community garden, cattail pond, connections to Rogers Grove. What would you like to see?
Ashley, there's a question in the chat about if in this future plan, the fairgrounds will still be emergency evacuation area. I would assume it will be. I haven't heard any reason why it wouldn't be.
Yes, it will be.
Thank you, Carla.
It seems like passive uses are pretty popular on the responses coming in. And just a reminder of what we've heard so far, I'm seeing some things for picnic spaces. We have heard about shade and pavilion structures, places for outdoor gathering has become very important in the last couple of years. So we've heard that too. Okay, great ideas. I think one or two more. Now, maybe I just duplicated this question. Knowing that the preferred concept will be a hybrid, which do you most prefer at this time?
You're seeing if people change their vote.
I don't know how I did that. My apologies, but let's just confirm what we heard before. Oh, yeah, okay, I see what I did.
It's like a video game.
Yeah. And we're still seeing, I think, the same results here. So thank you for humoring me and answering again. All right.
Is that our last question?
That is our last question. Please feel free to keep entering in the chat and we can stay on for a little bit here and answer that way.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, we've said it a number of times tonight, but we do have all of this information on the website that you see there on the screen. And we would encourage you to go there and to leave more comments, but also to share this with anybody that you think might be interested, somebody that we might not have been able to reach in our correspondence today, but might be interested in participating. So, and as we pointed out, we will have additional opportunities for you to weigh in. We've got what we learned tonight will go to help making a preferred option, and then we'll want to get your thoughts and comments on that as well. So, do we want to answer any questions in the chat?
Seen any new ones come up, but we're watching. So we are wrapping up here. We will stay on a little bit if there are any questions, but if you are going to leave us at this time, thank you so much for joining us and for participating in this meeting, and stay tuned for more information coming in the future.
There's a question about when we think the final plan will be released. I think the idea is that we get to a preferred master plan, at least a draft version of that by June. Is that right, Ashley?
Yes, that's our
Yeah.
Okay, there's a link in the chat for the website. If you can click on that and go right there. There's a couple questions that are more logistical that maybe James or Carla can help us out with, but what is the budget for this? And who's making decisions? What's that process look like?
Well, when we come up with a preferred plan, we'll take it to the Board of County Commissioners and present it to them for final adoption. As for the possible cost, we won't really know the cost until we pick that plan, and then we can do kind of a cost estimate. So stay tuned, hang tight, and we will. It's a process, and we'll get there hopefully. I think this summer is when we're planning to present to the commissioners.
And our team will be assisting with that cost estimate. And when we do that, that also comes with a discussion of phasing and what's most critical earlier, and near-term costs versus long-term outlooks.
Yep, thanks, Ashley.
All right. Well, I think with that, I'm not seeing any new questions. The link to what the website is in the chat. We can do, maybe we'll do a follow-up to the people who registered to this and email it that way as well.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you,
Well
everybody.
done. And thanks for all your feedback.